Are toxic fans real? Hey, what's up, nerd fam? It's your boy Gashawn. I want to welcome you to Into the Nerd. Today, we talk about toxic fandom, and is that actually a thing? I want to say outright, not necessarily, right? Being a fan isn't toxic. Liking something a lot, and maybe supporting it with time, money, that is not toxic. Like that in itself isn't toxic. Are there toxic people within specific fandoms? Yes. Well, in all fandoms, you'll find toxic people. So yeah. So it's not toxic fandom. It's just toxicity within people who happen to be in fandoms. Like let's just get that into context. And when you think about that, like what makes that right? Like where's all this stuff coming from? For example, when you have like a lot of these people who really supported, like let's say the Snyder Cut, there's nothing wrong with that. If that was something they really wanted to see, like I wasn't really a big fan of it, but it was okay for them to see it. If they really want to see it, and they did their whole campaign on Twitter and all that, there's no problem with that. That's actually great. And if they felt that was a victory for them seeing it, that's also awesome. I guess the toxic in it was how they responded to people who didn't reciprocate said feelings, right? Where it's like, oh, I don't want to watch it. Well, you're this and you're stupid and you like the Marvel. You must be a shill. It's like, stop that. Those type of things that you see in that. Now, that's not the mass majority. It's just the very vocal minority, right? And then the people who feel like they need to write, death threats to executives for not doing exactly what they wanted them to do. That's just stupid. And those type of things I'm talking about here in the video too, where you just calm down. Like what you like, but if a person does not like it, you really shouldn't disparage them. Like them not liking what you like doesn't make what you like any less awesome, right? I guess we can agree there or disagree, and hopefully we can do that respectfully, right? And you see that really in anything. You see it in anime. You see it in people who can be considered elitist, right? Who read things and, like, for example, I'm a comic book guy. I read tons of comic books, whether physically, digitally, whatever I can get my hands on, right? But there are some people who will kind of gatekeep. Who, if a person's asking, I'm like, hey, like, I don't know about, and they're like, oh, you don't know about this character? You never read A, B, and C? Huh. Don't do that because you're supposed to be helping them out. You want to get them in there, let them know. That's toxic behavior. Now it's not toxic fandom. It's just that guy's a bit of a douche. Honestly, like that just sucks, right? It really really sucks. Now you always want to make sure. I had a video about casual fans, like, and there can be toxic people in there too. People who don't know much of anything, but will sit there and go on a forum with a whole bunch of people who do know and try to tell them something without having little knowledge. That's toxic too, by the way. So there's tons of different toxic behaviors, but it doesn't make a fandom toxic. It just make particular people who happen to be fans toxic. But you can't demonize it, and you can't make like this whole term and just say, oh, if people really want something and they're not like me, then that means that they're toxic, right? Like, don't do that, right? For example, I'll give you a good, like, for example, they were also throwing that term on people who wanted Sonic to change. Remember when Sonic had that weird like human mouth, and then everyone was like, I'm not gonna go watch that movie. And then the studio was like, we need to change that, or else we don't want this to be a bomb. And they changed it, and the movie did exceedingly well. That wasn't bad. You have to listen to the fans. Like, and that's another thing. A lot of these companies will be like, this is toxic to listen to people because they're telling you what they like from they'll tell, if I complain about a movie for being, for me having a character that comes from this source material, and then I talk about it being, you're ruining the take on this, they'll go, oh, that's toxic. It's not toxic for me to make comparisons to something that had existed long before your project, and that's another and maybe that's another problem. It's like, what's being labeled toxic? Like, it's not negative for me to have a different opinion. It's not negative for me to like something, especially if it's a source. It'd be negative if I said, make this or I'm gonna kill you, and that's what some people do. Like even in The Last of Us 2, which obviously a lot of people didn't like, including myself. It be just because of what they did with the stories. It just wasn't that good, specifically with certain beloved characters from the first, right? But there were some people who took it a step further, writing hate mail and stuff like that. It's just like, oh no, that's not necessary. It isn't. It isn't necessary. You shouldn't do stuff like that. But just the people voicing out saying they didn't like it doesn't make it toxic. It means they didn't like it. You should open yourself up to criticism, like including myself. I make this video, someone can criticize something that I'm saying. That's okay. Criticism is good because if it's valid, then I can use it to grow and make myself better. But if you're just like, oh, you're a clown because you believe this, what is that? There's nothing to grow from. If you're not trying to, like, what's the point? If you're not actually trying to have a dialogue, why are you talking? But I get it. Some people aren't talking to learn; they're just talking to, and that type of behavior is just, that's a little weird. But I mean, I don't have to respond to it. No one has to respond to it. These studios, like, they can see restore the Snyderverse, right? Which they've already said they're moving past. And mind you, these fans can still go on and say what they're gonna say, and I welcome that because that's just their love for whatever it is, whatever they like. And the Warner Brothers, now they have to also respect that Warner Brothers can either listen to them again or move on, and that's it. That's it. Launch your campaign, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't, and just move on from there, right? And but also Warner Brothers or whoever's representing them don't call them toxic for wanting it. Just call out the weird negative behaviors, but don't just call them toxic for wanting it, right? Now I will say sometimes when I spoke about gatekeeping earlier, I would say that if we're gonna gatekeep against anyone, it should be against people who just don't care about several parts of nerd culture, right? Like, don't take a property that this group of people love and they love these aspects of said source material, then take it, pervert it, and then when they complain about it, go, well, it's just toxic. They're just, why are they complaining? It's like, you knew who was attached to this. You knew what these people wanted. So why are you surprised? Because the people who are coming in and doing it don't really care about it. It's just obviously a money thing. And I'm okay with people trying to make money, but when you do it to some type of beloved form of comic book, graphic novel, or just a regular novel, whatever, that's a form of art that someone invests time and money into. You go to these comic book shops, you see people spend time and money on these things. So you gotta respect it. You gotta respect it. So no, I don't think there's toxic fans. It's just, I'll say being a fan is not toxic. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. But there are some toxic people who happen to be fans. I'll say that much. This might seem, obvious, but it's not obvious to everyone apparently. So yeah, let me know what you think about it. Do you understand that? Do you think that it's just toxic fandom? Do you think whole fandoms are just toxic, or are you a person who's just like, nah, man, yeah, there's just some, I don't know. If you agree, you agree, right? But yeah, until then, keep on enjoying stuff. Please be a fan, and remember to enter the nerd.